Welcome back with another exciting video. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and leave a comment.
The island that never let anyone return. What if I told you there is an island hidden off the coast of the United States where every person who landed simply vanished? No distress calls, no survivors, no bodies, just silence. For more than a century, sailors avoided it. Fishermen refused to speak its name. Government officials denied the rumors. Yet every few decades, someone would ignore the warnings and set foot on its shores. And every single time, they disappeared. Some believed the island was cursed. Others thought it hid a secret military experiment. But the truth that investigators eventually uncovered was far stranger than anyone could have imagined. This is the chilling story of Dead Man's Hollow Island, one of America's most terrifying unsolved mysteries. The island first appeared in official records in 1887. Located somewhere in the cold waters of the North Atlantic, several miles from the rocky coastline of Maine, it was little more than a dark patch of land surrounded by jagged cliffs. Local fishermen called it Dead Man's Hollow. The name itself carried an unsettling history. According to old maritime legends, sailors who became lost during violent storms would occasionally spot strange lights moving across the island at night. The lights seemed almost human, yet whenever rescue crews investigated, nobody was found. Many believed the lights belonged to shipwrecked victims who had died along the dangerous coast. Others claimed something else lived there, something that wanted to be seen. For years, these stories remained little more than folklore. Then came the first documented disappearance. In the spring of 1891, three brothers named Samuel, Jacob, and Thomas Grayson decided to explore the island. They were experienced fishermen. They knew the waters better than anyone. When they announced their plan, local residents begged them not to go. The brothers laughed at the warnings. To them, the island was simply another piece of land surrounded by superstitious nonsense. Early one morning, dozens of people watched as their boat sailed toward the island. The weather was calm, the sea was peaceful, everything appeared normal. The brothers reached shore shortly after sunrise. Witnesses on the mainland observed them climbing the rocky cliffs. Then they disappeared into the dense forest that covered the island's center. They were never seen again. At first, people assumed they had suffered an accident. Perhaps they had fallen from a cliff. Perhaps a storm had swept them into the sea. A search team was organized immediately. When rescuers arrived, the brothers' boat found exactly where it had been left. Food remained untouched. Equipment sat neatly arranged. There were footprints leading into the forest, but there were no footprints coming back out. The brothers simply vanished. Not a single trace was ever discovered. The mystery quickly spread across New England. Newspapers published sensational headlines. People became fascinated, and despite the warnings, curiosity continued drawing visitors toward the island. Over the next 20 years, at least 11 more people disappeared under nearly identical circumstances. Some were explorers, others were treasure hunters. A few were scientists hoping to explain the strange legends. None returned. The pattern was always the same. They arrived safely, they entered the island, then they vanished forever. By 1915, fear surrounding Dead Man's Hollow had become so widespread that shipping companies altered routes to avoid passing nearby. Captains reported strange experiences. Several claimed their compasses spun wildly whenever they approached the island. Others described hearing distant voices carried across the ocean during calm nights. One captain swore he saw dozens of people standing along the shoreline. When his ship moved closer, the figures disappeared. No evidence ever confirmed these stories, yet the reports continued. In 1924, the United States government finally became interested. Officials believed there must be a logical explanation. A team of 6 federal investigators was dispatched to survey the island. Unlike previous explorers, they carried advanced equipment and maintained regular radio communication with a support vessel stationed offshore. For the first few hours, everything seemed normal. The team reported dense vegetation, unusual rock formations, and a surprisingly large number of abandoned bird nests. Then, something changed. At approximately 2:17 p.m., radio operators received a strange transmission. One investigator sounded frightened. He repeatedly asked whether anyone else could hear the voices. The operator replied that he heard nothing unusual. The investigator insisted the voices were everywhere. He claimed dozens of people were whispering from inside the forest. The transmission ended abruptly. Attempts to re-establish contact failed. The support vessel waited through the night. No further messages arrived. The following morning, a rescue operation entered the island. The investigators were gone. Their camp remained intact. Equipment lay exactly where it had been left. Several notebooks sat open on a folding table. One contained a final handwritten sentence. It read, "They keep calling us deeper into the trees." The message terrified officials. The notebooks were classified. Public discussion was discouraged. And for several decades, information about the island largely disappeared from public view. Yet the mystery refused to die. In the 1950s, a new generation of researchers began examining old records. Among them was Professor Harold Bennett, a respected historian specializing in maritime disasters. Unlike previous investigators, Bennett focused on local legends passed down through fishing communities. What he discovered shocked him. Multiple stories dating back hundreds of years described an island inhabited by beings that mimicked human voices. Native communities living along the coast had reportedly warned early settlers never to approach the island after sunset. According to these legends, the voices belonged to entities that could imitate loved ones. Victims would hear familiar voices calling their names. They would follow the sounds into the forest, and they would never return. Bennett did not believe in supernatural explanations. Nevertheless, the similarities between ancient stories and modern disappearances were difficult to ignore. He organized an expedition in 1958. The trip would become one of the most infamous chapters of the island's history. Bennett and 4 assistants landed shortly after dawn. They carried cameras, recording devices, and enough supplies for 3 days. At first, everything proceeded according to plan. The team documented unusual environmental conditions. Birdsong seemed strangely absent. Large portions of the forest were unnaturally quiet. Even insects appeared scarce. As evening approached, one assistant reported hearing someone calling her name. Nobody else heard anything. The team dismissed the claim as stress. Several hours later, another assistant reported the same experience. This time, the voice sounded like his deceased father. The atmosphere quickly became tense. Throughout the night, multiple team members claimed to hear whispers coming from different directions. The voices seemed personal. Each person heard someone different, a family member, a friend, a loved one. The next morning, 2 assistants were missing. The remaining team members searched frantically. They discovered footprints leading into a dense section of forest. The tracks ended suddenly in a clearing. There was nowhere else to go. No hidden cave, no cliff, nothing. The missing assistants had vanished.
His team left the island that afternoon. The professor never returned. In interviews conducted years later, He described the experience as the most frightening event of his life. Yet the island's darkest chapter was still to come. In 1977, a wealthy adventurer named Richard Kane became obsessed with solving the mystery. Unlike previous explorers, Kane possessed significant resources. He assembled a large expedition equipped with helicopters, satellite communications, and advanced surveying technology. The mission attracted national attention. Television crews followed the story closely. Many believed Kane would finally reveal the truth. For 3 days, everything appeared successful. The expedition transmitted photographs and detailed reports. Then, communication suddenly ceased. When support crews attempted contact, nobody responded. A helicopter was dispatched immediately. What pilots discovered remains one of the strangest findings ever reported. The expedition camp was empty. Tents stood untouched. Food remained on tables. Vehicles were parked exactly where they had been left. Yet 21 people had disappeared. Every single member of the expedition was gone. Not one body was recovered. Not one survivor emerged. It was as though an entire group had simply dissolved into thin air. The incident shocked the nation. Media coverage exploded. Conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed the island concealed a secret military facility. Others suggested alien involvement. A few insisted the disappearances were elaborate hoaxes. But none of these theories explained the evidence, or the lack of evidence. Years passed. Technology improved. Satellite imagery became increasingly sophisticated. Yet the island continued resisting explanation. Researchers noticed something unusual. Photographs taken at different times often appeared inconsistent. Trees seemed to move. Landmarks changed position. Paths visible in one image vanished in another. Many experts blamed technical errors. Still, the anomalies fueled speculation. Then came the event that reignited global interest. In 2021, 5 independent explorers launched a privately funded expedition. Unlike earlier teams, they live-streamed portions of their journey online. Thousands watched from around the world. For the first several hours, viewers saw dense forest, rocky terrain, and abandoned campsites left by previous expeditions. Nothing seemed extraordinary. Then, the strange occurrences began. Electronic equipment malfunctioned repeatedly. GPS signals became unreliable. Audio recordings captured faint voices that nobody remembered hearing at the time. As night approached, the live stream audience noticed something disturbing. Several voices appeared to be calling individual team members by name. The explorers denied hearing anything. Reviewing the footage later, experts confirmed the voices existed on the recording. No source could be identified. The broadcast continued until approximately 11:43 p.m. At that moment, the camera suddenly turned toward the forest. A voice could be heard speaking clearly. It said, "Come find us." The transmission ended. No further footage was received. The 5 explorers disappeared. Despite extensive searches, no trace of them was ever found. Today, Dead Man's Hollow Island remains officially unexplained. Government agencies acknowledge the historical disappearances, but offer no definitive answers. Scientists continue proposing theories. Some believe unusual geological formations could create powerful acoustic illusions. Others suggest environmental toxins may trigger hallucinations. A few researchers suspect a combination of natural factors and human psychology. Yet none of these explanations fully account for more than 100 years of vanishings. And perhaps that is what makes the mystery so terrifying. The island does not fit neatly into any category. It exists somewhere between legend and reality, between science and folklore, between what we know and what we fear.
Maybe there is a rational explanation waiting to be discovered. Maybe every disappearance can eventually be explained by ordinary causes. Or maybe some places still exist that humanity does not fully understand. Places where the rules seem different. Places where curiosity becomes dangerous. And if the stories are true, somewhere off the coast of America, hidden beneath dark forests and surrounded by cold, gray water, there is an island still waiting for the next visitor, waiting for the next voice to answer, and waiting for the next person who believes they can uncover the truth. Because everyone who has tried before has vanished without a trace, never to be seen again. The story should have ended there. 5 explorers gone, no evidence, no explanation, another chapter added to a mystery that had already consumed more than a century. But what happened after the 2021 expedition would become the most disturbing part of the entire legend. Because for the first time, investigators found something that should not have existed. 3 months after the disappearance, a digital forensics team was hired to examine every second of the expedition's live stream. Their goal was simple: determine whether the explorers had staged the event. At first, the analysis revealed nothing unusual. Battery failures could explain some interruptions, signal interference could explain the distorted audio. But then, a technician noticed something strange. In one section of footage recorded shortly before the final transmission, a figure briefly appeared between the trees. The image lasted less than a second. Most viewers had never noticed it. The team enhanced the footage. What they discovered made several investigators question their own eyes. The figure appeared to be a man standing motionless in the forest. His clothing looked decades old, perhaps from the early 20th century. But that wasn't the shocking part. When researchers compared the image to historical photographs, they found a near-perfect match. The man resembled one of the federal investigators who had disappeared on the island in 1924. The similarity was extraordinary. The same facial structure, the same hairstyle, even the same jacket. Experts initially dismissed the finding as a coincidence. After all, blurry images can easily deceive people. Yet, as more footage was examined, additional figures appeared. A woman standing behind a tree, a child near the shoreline, an elderly man watching from a cliff. None moved, none approached the camera. They simply stood there, watching. And every figure appeared to match photographs of individuals reported missing on the island throughout different decades. The discovery was never officially confirmed. Nevertheless, leaked reports spread rapidly across the internet.
Public fascination exploded. Online communities became obsessed with identifying faces in the footage. Some believed the missing people were somehow still alive. Others thought the figures were hallucinations caused by digital artifacts. No consensus emerged, but one fact remained undeniable. The island had once again captured the world's attention. In the years that followed, researchers began uncovering forgotten documents hidden inside old archives. One of the most significant discoveries came from a retired librarian in Boston. While cataloging historical records, she found a damaged journal dating back to 1812. The journal belonged to a merchant sailor named Elias Crow. According to his writings, he and several crew members became stranded on an unnamed island during a severe storm. The description matched Dead Man's Hollow almost perfectly. Crow recorded unusual experiences. He described hearing voices calling from the forest. He wrote about seeing familiar faces among the trees. Most disturbing of all, he claimed time behaved strangely. One entry stated, "The sun appears wrong. Hours pass like minutes, yet sometimes a minute feels endless." At first, historians considered the account unreliable. The sailor may have suffered dehydration or trauma. but additional journals revealed similar observations. Again and again, visitors described losing track of time. Some believed they had spent only a few hours exploring. Their watches suggested much longer periods. Others reported the opposite. Entire days seemed to disappear. The phenomenon became one of the most puzzling aspects of the mystery. Then came an even stranger revelation. Satellite data collected over several decades showed minor discrepancies regarding the island's position. The differences were small, only a few hundred feet at most, yet islands do not normally drift across the ocean. Scientists blamed measurement errors. Still, the inconsistencies continued appearing in different surveys. To conspiracy theorists, the explanation was obvious. They believed the island itself was somehow moving, not physically through the water, but through something else, something beyond normal understanding. Most experts rejected such ideas, yet nobody could provide a definitive answer. As public interest grew, pressure mounted for another official investigation. Government agencies refused. The island's reputation had become too dangerous. Too many lives had already been lost. Instead, researchers focused on collecting data remotely. Drones were deployed. Advanced sensors monitored environmental conditions. For a while, the strategy appeared successful. Then the drones began disappearing, one after another. Some lost power unexpectedly. Others transmitted corrupted footage before vanishing entirely. Few wrecks were later recovered near the coastline. Others were never found. Engineers struggled to explain the failures. The island seemed determined to remain a mystery. But perhaps the most chilling discovery emerged from audio analysis. For years, investigators had reviewed recordings collected during various expeditions. Most contained nothing remarkable. Wind, ocean waves, static. Then, new artificial intelligence software examined thousands of hours of archived audio. The system detected patterns humans had overlooked. Hidden beneath the noise were voices, hundreds of them, whispers, fragments of conversations, single words spoken repeatedly. The recordings originated from different decades, different locations, different equipment. Yet many of the voices sounded identical. Some appeared to belong to people reported missing years earlier. One recording allegedly contained the voice of Richard Kane, the expedition leader who vanished in 1977. Another seemed to match a woman who disappeared during the 1958 expedition. Skeptics argued the software produced false positives. Human brains naturally seek patterns, yet the findings deepened the mystery. How could voices from different eras appear in recordings separated by decades? No one knew. Then, an anonymous source released a document that changed everything. The file allegedly originated from a classified government investigation conducted during the late 1980s. According to the report, researchers had attempted a highly unusual experiment. Instead of sending people onto the island, they placed synchronized clocks at multiple locations. Some remained offshore. Others were delivered to the island by remote equipment. After several days, the clocks were compared. The differences were tiny, only fractions of a second, yet the discrepancies exceeded acceptable margins. The island appeared to affect time itself. Most physicists dismissed the claim immediately. The data could have resulted from equipment malfunction. The document's authenticity could not be verified. Still, the story spread rapidly, and with every new theory, the island became more frightening, not because people understood it, but because they didn't. Perhaps the most haunting question was also the simplest. What happened to the missing people? Were they dead, lost, trapped, or something else entirely? No answer has ever been found. Families still search for closure. Historians continue examining archives. Scientists continue studying data. And the island continues waiting, silent, unchanged, unexplained. Even today, fishermen along the Maine coast tell strange stories. Some claim they occasionally see lights moving through the trees after sunset. Others report hearing distant voices carried across the water during calm nights. Most refuse to discuss the subject for long. They simply shake their heads and change the conversation. Because around those waters, one belief has survived for generations, a belief older than newspapers, older than official investigations, older than recorded history itself. The belief that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, and some places do not want visitors. If that belief is true, then Dead Man's Hollow Island may be one of those places, a place that calls to the curious, a place that rewards courage with disappearance, a place where every path leads deeper into darkness. And if one day you ever find yourself sailing through cold Atlantic waters and notice a distant island covered in fog, if you hear a familiar voice calling your name from somewhere among the trees, don't answer, because according to legend, the moment you answer back, the island already knows